Down. Now, welcome to the front, Mr. Steve Richardson from the Public Solutions Group. Came up from Texas today. Share with us a whole bunch more information about CNG. Mr. Richardson, welcome to Wisconsin.
I don't know if I clipped it on very well, so if you hear a loud bang while I'm talking, just ignore it. Well, I can tell you this. Like I was telling Corey, I got up at 3 o'clock, 3:30 this morning, and it was 68 degrees. And while I was outside having my first cup of coffee and cigarette, I thought, man, it's kind of cold outside. And we're not even in winter here, are we? I will say I do love this state, and especially what Aaron Rodgers is doing for my fantasy football team this year. So I'm very, very happy to be here, especially since there are so many of you here. I started this company almost 12 years ago, and there have been times that I've gotten up and talked to people and tried to talk to them about all alternative fuels, because my company, Public Solutions Group, we like to think we're experts in all alternative fuels, not just natural gas. I founded the company on a very simple premise: to be able to give public and private fleets accurate and ethical information when they wanted to move to alternative fuels. And I say that because there was a time when most of the atmosphere in alternative fuels was spent lobbing rocks at each other. And fleet people would have the biodiesel guy leave his office and think, well, man, maybe that's what I ought to do. And then the propane guy would come in and leave and go, well, man, maybe that's what I ought to do. And the bad thing is for 12 years or more, very little has really happened because of all of the fear and uncertainty and doubt that's out there in alternative fuels. That changed. And I shouldn't have said 12 years, I should have said 10. Because really about 2 years ago, what I believe happened was a true paradigm shift in the alternative world. And it was brought on by, more than anything else, natural gas. Natural gas, for the first time, I could get in front of fleets who needed help, who wanted to cut costs, who wanted to do some good things, and I could say, you know what? It's cheaper. You know what? The payback is now 2 to 3 years. You know what? At all of these good things, and it made sense. Because when I started the company, the only thing I could tell them was, we're cities like Los Angeles or Santa Clara or Houston or Dallas, was it's cleaner, you have to do it, or the EPA is going to shut you down. That's different now. Vendors can make money selling vehicles. Station providers can make money partnering with fleets. Fleets can save money. Taxpayers have to pay less now in Texas. It's just this huge, huge, huge change in the way that fleets are going to be operating in the future. And we're not going to go back. It has changed. Now, with that said, there I am. A couple of years before I was born, a Shell scientist made this comment at a press conference right after he and his team had modified an existing car to go over 140 miles a gallon on 1 gallon of gasoline. And they asked him, they said, well, what are you going to do with this thing? And you can think, I'm 49, so this was, 50-something years ago. Gasoline really wasn't very expensive back then. But they could make a car go over 140 miles per gallon. And they asked him, well, what are we going to do with this? And this guy already kind of was looking ahead, and he said, basically, I'm pretty sure that our ignorance is not, our ignorance is not so vast as our failure to use. Basically, he said, look, it's going to get forgotten because we're going to let others dictate to us what's going on. So it doesn't matter what we just did here. It's going to be forgotten. Even though it's the right thing to do and the smart thing to do, it's going to be forgotten. Every administration, it's not just Obama, and it wasn't George W., and it wasn't Reagan, and it wasn't Carter. Every administration since Nixon has got up and said we have to do something about our dependence on foreign oil. Every administration has said that, and we haven't done a damn thing about it yet. Now here's some quick facts. Last year we spent over $700 billion, and you've all seen these figures, and if you've listened to the news or different things on YouTube, you know that we spent a whole lot of money last year importing foreign oil. Now a lot of the oil people will tell you, yeah, but a lot of that was Mexico and big chunk Canada. Well, yeah, but anywhere between 38 and 41% of that came from the Middle East and Venezuela. Countries, that do not have our best interest at heart. We are funding the terrorists that want to bring our nation to its knees. That's what it boils down to. Whether it's 100% or not, 41% we're giving away to people who want to harm us. And that number keeps growing. Now, if you've been to these seminars at all, how many have been to these before? Real quick. Yeah. And Jeff and Mark were right. You're going to hear these things all the time. And the danger is that a lot of times people like myself will get up and tell you it's cleaner, it's this, it's that, it's, you know, and eventually, let me move that up a little. You'll begin to get a little jaded. So I want you to understand, when I say cleaner, although the wind's blowing out here, and you may not have the EPA breathing down your neck, you need to understand that that doesn't mean that cleaner's not important. Cleaner really doesn't mean I could say, well, it's 60% this or 90% that, and you have nothing to base that on. But know this, with natural gas, you will have less cancer. You will have less childhood asthma. Childhood asthma right now is the single largest runaway childhood illness in the United States. You will have less cardiovascular disease. Our elderly will be in less danger. That's what it means. Kids, the elderly, us. That's what it's cleaner means, okay? A very prime example of this, okay? We all see that we have particulate traps. We're trying to keep the black smoke down. That doesn't mean it's not there. And when that black smoke comes out and you can't see it anymore, where does it go? Do you think it just goes up into the air? No, it falls down onto the ground. And the very next truck that drives down that highway kicks it back up. That's why schools that are near highways, housing developments that are near highways, every truck that drives down that highway kicks it back up. It doesn't go anywhere till it rains. Okay? It is cheaper. Now, this is where it gets really, really, really complicated. And I don't want anybody here thinking, oh my God, well, how do I calculate this and 2 plus those and 3 of these and a half of that? And I'm going to give you some real world scenarios where a couple of clients of ours that'll give you real world savings. Your savings at the pump is directly dependent upon several factors. The size of the station. Do you own the station? Does somebody else own the station? What kind of fueling agreement did you sign? What kind of trucks are you running? Are they good retrofits? Are they bad retrofits? I mean, there's so much that goes into this. But on average, keep this number in your head, $2 a gallon. There is a good way to do at least $2 a gallon. Your vehicle lasts longer. Most of the time in refuse trucks, you end up replacing the body way before you replace the engine and truck, okay? Now, and I'm really glad Jeff is here because he's absolutely correct. When I say reduce maintenance costs, I'm talking about transit buses, trash trucks. And God love you for being a pioneer doing over the road with CNG because that is pretty amazing. That's pretty amazing. All right, here's some of the stuff that we hear all the time, the drawbacks. Most of your alternative fuel vehicles, no matter what they are, they're going to cost more. This is not free. You're not going to get into this for free. It's going to take an investment. You're going to have to be committed to this. You've got to think long term. Now, one thing that we don't really realize, a lot of us, is that we already think long term already. I mean, every time you go buy a new truck, a new trash truck, you know that that's not going to be paid for a set number of years. There's a payback period. Don't let a little more extended payback period make you shy away from CNG. The infrastructure is expensive. For you fleet people that are going to be doing heavy-duty fleet use, you do not want your guys sitting there. It has to be properly sized, and you need to make sure you're partnering with reputable people that are not just fly-by-nights. My phone rings once a week with another company that thinks they want to get into building CNG stations, and hey, could I come talk to them? And the answer is always no, no. So there are drawbacks there. The vehicles cost too much. The stations cost too much. We don't know what we're doing. Or when should we do it? How should we do it? Could we do a pilot program first? Now the benefits. Number one, fuel cost savings. You're going to save fuel. You're going to save cost. You're going to save money. You're going to spend less time maintaining the vehicles in most instances. You are going to be able to provide healthier work environments, healthier play environments. You're improving the city that you live in and the roads that you travel down. You're making a difference. You are making a difference. And again, quit giving our money to people who want to kill us. That's number one. Let's just stop doing it. Now the future. We all have to be prepared for non-attainment. Non-attainment is coming out. The EPA at times is a little runaway. They get a little carried away. At times, not. Now what I'm saying here is there is proof, undeniable proof, that particulate matter, the really, really bad stuff that carries the cancer-causing agents with it, at one point we thought when you breathe PM in, it got stuck in the lungs and the lungs kept it. Well, we know now that the very, very small pieces of it, the very small particulates, pass through the lung walls and get into the blood system. That means it's open season. Whatever organ you have that needs blood is now going to be exposed to these cancer-causing agents. We got to be prepared for that because they are already talking about moving that way. And when they start talking about particulate non-attainment, that's going to be a whole lot of people. Now, if you do this right, probably if you are a municipal fleet or if you serve the public, one of the most powerful things that you can do in the future with natural gas is you're going to reduce your need to raise taxes. You're going to reduce your need to raise your services. You're going to be more competitive than your competitors are because you're spending less money and you can pass that stuff through. You don't have to raise taxes because you don't need more money halfway through the year because your fueling budget just disappeared. If you do this right, this could be a very powerful tool to attract new residents to your area, new companies to your area. They want to come to an area that is clean, that's good, that they don't have to pay, especially on businesses, that there's not a hidden charges there because the area is already in non-attainment, so now they have to construct their facility a special way or pay fines. They don't want to do that. And again, leaning on what Mark said, very, very, very important. Here is your opportunity, even if you're a private fleet, and especially if you're a city fleet, where you can go out there and get the public involved. And I say that, and the most powerful thing you can do is open these stations up to the public. Don't just make it yours. Find a way to get a public access or a dispenser out to the public for them to use. It hits your bottom line and helps you, and it encourages others in this area to jump on the same bandwagon. Now the reality is the fuel savings, now okay, I'm not going to go through every one of these because I want to get to the real life scenarios. The reality is this. A couple of years ago, when the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act came out, there was bunches and bunches of money for us to go get. Okay, and in the past 2 years, my company, we have gone out and raised over $48 million for our clients' programs. Okay, we're in an election year. We don't know if the Natural Gas Act is going to pass or not. We hope it does. It'd be a good thing. But I'm here to tell you right now, just like Mark said, the economics are there. You don't need grants, okay? You don't need loans. The fuel funds the program. And then what little grants we are going to see coming in the future, it's not going to be anything like we just saw. They are going to fund programs that are already moving and already underway. They're not going to fund startups. So it behooves you now to start moving as a community towards natural gas, then come together as a community and try to get some extra money to offset it. But start now by taking grants and putting them back here. They're great to have, but that's not how you do a program that lasts. Okay? The engine deltas are shrinking. CNG's getting cheaper. Diesel's getting more expensive. Not only that, but diesel engines are getting harder to work on, and they are becoming more and more troublesome. And I'm not telling you guys anything you don't know. The only way to make a diesel engine pass EPA standards is by bolting on, SCRs, EGRs, blah, 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 the whole alphabet. And when you start adding and adding and adding and adding, you begin to pull down on that engine's effectiveness, and you open up more and more areas for that engine to fail. Conversely, a CNG engine is a very simple engine. It doesn't need all of the add-on technology to be clean because the fuel itself is already more than 4 times cleaner as far as molecules than what diesel is. Things to consider, vendor partnerships. I'll get to that in a minute. One thing to really, this is an old number we throw out a lot. One CNG engine, if you replaced a diesel trash truck with a CNG trash truck, you're basically pulling 300 cars off the road every day. Now you put that into a utility. Now it changes by area, but in Texas, one of the utilities in Texas, the amount of gas that they budget for a new home, one CNG trash truck to them equals 50 new homes burning all gas, okay? Your utility partners are very, very interested in helping you move to CNG is what I'm trying to get to, okay? All right, here's the real life stuff. A tale of two cities, basically. One of our clients, Bossier City, came to us and said, we want to, we're sitting right on a shale, and we want to make use of this gas that's right here in our own backyard. So we came in and we did an analysis of the fleet. And the first thing we came back to him said, you don't want to do CNG. It doesn't make sense. You don't have enough heavy-duty vehicles to do it. Don't do CNG. You'll never pay for it. And then they very politely told me, no, you don't understand. We're going to do CNG, and we'd like you to help us figure out how to do that. If not, let's part friends. So I went back and looked at it, and come to find out, there was 22,000 flex fuel vehicles capable of burning E85. 22,000 right there by Bossier City, little city. So by building 2 stations that were combination E85 and CNG, the E85 actually pays for the CNG station, while the city then and the parish and various other the school district, it just goes on, as they begin to convert slowly and build the load up on the CNG side, the E85 is now almost already paid for 1 station. Now the beauty here is most cities do not open up their fueling stations to the public. Bossier saw the benefit in that. They knew times were hard. They saw this as a way as opening up cheap E85 fueling for these 22,000 people that lived in their area, and in the future CNG. And every dime that they make off of either fuel, they are putting right back into the general fund so that they do not have to raise the trash and utility rates or whatever, trash, water, and sewer and that kind of stuff. They don't have to raise them on the city now. So one of the things that we also did for Bossier is really reach out to the public and let them know, hey, if you fuel here, you're helping your taxes not to move an inch. And so that was one thing that Bossier did that was really, really nice. Now the other thing is we had them place the 2nd station right near Barksdale Air Force. And today in the United States, if a federal fleet is within 5 miles or 15 minutes of an alternative fuel, They are mandated by law to use that alternative fuel. So, in this area, if you're coming together and wanting to build a station, that's something to really consider. Because if they're within 5 miles or 15 minutes of that station, by federal law, they have to fuel there. So there immediately is a fleet. And now we're giving them a reason to buy CNG to use this CNG station or whatever it may be, okay? Now, New Braunfels. New Braunfels was a situation, they very much are a little tourist town in central Texas, just off from San Antonio and Austin. Very pretty place. But they had a situation where they're in non-attainment. They're in trouble because they're right there with San Antonio and Austin. And they're losing, they're beginning to have some problems in the air, which means they're losing tourists. And B, their fuel costs are just going through the roof. The problem was, nobody in that area had a fleet big enough to justify CNG. Now let me pause for a minute because I've kind of, second time I've touched on this. Understand this, the secret with natural gas is to use as much as you can, as fast as you can. Okay? Because the more you use, the more you save, the quicker it makes sense. Okay? Well, so we said, look, each one of these fleets here, there was a county fleet, the city fleet, the school district, and then the utility fleet. Instead of thinking like 4 people, let's put all you guys together and think and make that one fleet. And out of that one fleet, the city had 20 trash trucks, more than enough to anchor a CNG portion of that alternative fuel answer, okay? So let's go through some numbers real quick. Oh, okay. Yeah, this is New Braunfels. Now, CCO is Comal County, MB is New Braunfels, MBU is New Braunfels Utilities, very complicated system there. CISD, Comal ISD. There gives you a rundown on the vehicles that they had when we looked at their fleets. So even when you combine these guys, you see it's really, really low numbers. Now, I'm using New Braunfels as an example because I don't want anybody leaving here thinking, I don't have enough to do this. You do. If you will reach out like these guys did and say, let's do this as a group. Don't leave here thinking you got to do this by yourself. You don't. And as a quick sidebar, one of the great things about this is a grant waiting to happen. This is the kind of community involvement that the federal entities love to fund. Okay? So I'm just going to look at the heavy duty, which are your big trucks, 33,000 GVWR and bigger, okay? Now, as you look at the emissions, there's one thing to recognize here. You notice the heavy stuff is very high in nitrogen oxides. That's the stuff that causes smog, okay? Conversely, the light duty stuff is the greenhouse gas offenders. Now, don't really have time for me to get started on what I really think of greenhouse gases, but the main thing is we do know NOx exists and that it is bad. So let's look at those numbers. All right, this is if they went E85, but let's go, that was propane possibility. We didn't really recommend it, but it was something we had to look at for them. Now, of the natural gas, there were 108 CNG-capable heavy-duty and heavy-duty trucks. Estimated 190,000 combined gallons that they use every year. They would have reduced almost 6 tons of poisons a year. Then we look down here in the individual group savings. If they would have made the switch, at that, I mean, it just threw the switch and did it, it'd be 237,000 gallons. Now, this was done about 2 years ago. And I left it like Mark did so that we can all look at the comparison. This was almost 2 years ago. At that time, they would have saved $237,000 a year just by doing the heavy duty. Don't do anything else, okay? Nowadays, they would have saved more than double that. Now, very quickly, because I'm running out of time too, we just helped the city of Laredo revitalize its transit system onto natural gas. We did it by rebuilding, we got them another station built for a satellite station. Long story short, And we're also got some grant money for them to get some new buses. They have 15 CNG buses with satellite station. We were able to use that load plus the load that they had at their downtown station to renegotiate a new contract with the station provider. Right now, they're paying two things. City of Bossier is paying 93 cents a gallon once it's all said and done. 93 cents a gallon. City of Laredo is paying 97 cents a gallon. Those 15 buses fuel twice a day. Every time they fuel, they save $100. And in a little down, very, very poor Laredo, Texas, at the bottom of Texas, those 15 buses every single day save the citizens of Laredo $3,000 a day. Every day, 7 days a week. Now, all of that can happen when you pull everything together and you look at it and you think about it and you take this road and you do it the right way. There are substantial savings to have, substantial emissions to realize, reductions to realize, and substantial less oil that they're going to have to import. Now, I could go on and on and on. It's just something that I really love doing. I've never hated having started this company years ago. I love what I do, and I'm tickled to death that you guys came out. But there are so many things to consider as you're moving down this road. But it is worth moving down the road, okay? It is worth it. It's not necessarily black and white. There's lots of gray area, but there is a way to do it, and it is absolutely worth your trouble. That's really probably all I have right there, but if any of you want to talk, I brought a pocket full of cards. You can go to our website. You can call me, whatever you want to do. But I really applaud all of you coming out to take this step. Thank you.
You want to take a couple questions?
Oh, yeah. Well, do I have time?
Oh, yeah, we're in good shape.
Okay. Questions? Anybody? Bueller?
Just cover a little bit. I think we've created more confusion around the pricing of fuel between the two presentations.
I think, yeah. Now,
One, two things. In your 93 cents, right? Is that counting the 50 cent a gallon tax credit?
no, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not. Mark was very, very accurate in that when you go into a situation when you're picking your supplier, there's a lot of ways, there are so many different ways to get a station built. How long do you want to partner with this vendor? There is nothing wrong with fueling contracts. And the longer you partner, and the way we kind of did this is we were able to show, because we did the analysis and we worked with them, we could show the vendor, here's how much is going to be this year, here's how much the next year. So we gave the vendor absolute figures that they could count on. So they could go out and be very aggressive with their pricing. The second thing is Chesapeake got very, very involved and did a lot of work for the station to make the stations happen. And that involved some extra lines being run, higher pressure gas, so the configuration came down. There is a big swing there. But I think what we need to remember was, Mark did a very good job of this. That was a very good estimate of public to public, okay? Public diesel, public CNG. The Bossier and Laredo situation is city, okay? That's city and only the city fueling there type of situation. So we have to be real careful that we're not comparing apples to oranges, and I think that's what we may have done. It's what I may have done when I threw those numbers out. Anybody else? Did that help any? Anybody? All right. Thank you very much.